Do you like The Mandalorian or Firefly? Because these are space westerns, which are usually a part of science fiction westerns or even science fantasy western a la Star Wars. What are these terms? Well, let's break it down, shall we? A story that is set in a secondary world or even our own world, which toys with the probability and possibility of science and technology, where the rules are compatible with, or at least recognizable with the scientific laws of our world, is science fiction. A story is set in the Old West or a similar setting that follows more often than not a Clint Eastwood type character is a western. And a story that is set in a secondary world, aka not our own, with elements of both sci-fi and magic, is a science fantasy. But why are we talking about all this? This is not a Lit Cred 1 class now, is it? Well, we mentioned these because there are quite a few sci-fi westerns to take the possibilities of science fiction and the settings and tropes of a western to create magical tales, such as The Mandalorian and Firefly, which we began this video with. So fans, are you ready to add to that ever-increasing to-watch list based on plots and what other viewers have said? If the answer is yes, then giddy up because you're in for a wild ride. Yeehaw! Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you, and let's begin. First on our list, Westworld. Wait, wasn't this a show? Well, there is a show named Westworld which has the same premise, but which takes things in a different direction. Yet that is a topic for another video. 1973's Westworld was a movie focused mainly on Peter, who was a guest at Delos Park. What is a Delos Park? The same as in the show, it is a historical setting populated with androids that are indistinguishable from humans to the naked eye. Similar to what happens in the show, guests can engage in anything with the android. Peter is visiting the Westworld Park setting the Old West with his friend James, where they fight an android called the Gunslinger, whose attraction is starting gunfights. Twice they win because, of course, the creature is programmed not to kill humans, but their luck goes out when all the androids begin to malfunction and kills the guests. Now, when the Gunslinger comes after them, James is killed and Peter is on the run for his life through Westworld, Roman world, and medieval world until finally he sets the android on fire. But how does Boy We Have a Vacation for You end in acid and flames? Well, that's the story of Peter's escape, available in Westworld, a 1973 science western, combined the setting of the Old West and the science of androids to show what can happen when humans forget humanity towards others and ask how far should artificial intelligence be developed? Or did it ask that? Let us know your opinions in the comments while we share what other fans have said. Ranging from calling it a great success, others have said that it accomplished its goal despite some plot holes, showing that fans love the premise of the film. No wonder they made a show on it. Wait, then how is it underrated? Well, it is now a household name like Marvel or Star Wars, and except for die-hard sci-fi fans, many might skip it, just like the next movie on our list. The American Astronaut. This 2001 classic is weird. It follows an American astronaut, Curtis, who is being haunted by an old friend turned enemy, Professor Hess, without his knowledge, while he tries to trade the rare, real-live girl clone he got as part of his payment for the delivery of a cat to an outer quadrant. In exchange for girl, he wants the all-male planet of Jupiter to give him the boy who saw a real breast, whom he plans to exchange for the remains of Johnny R., a man who was a human stud, for the all-women planet of Venus. In exchange for delivering the remains to the grieving family, he will get a handsome reward. In the process of all this, there are many adventures, and we see another character, a boy named Bodysuit, who needs to be delivered to Earth and was raised in excruciating circumstances. The idea is simply that despite being cunning, Curtis is a part of a space travel where the ones traveling almost always have loose morals, such as Professor Hess, who can kill anyone without reason and has set his sights on Curtis. There's also what some may feel like sexualization on the basis of gender, aka this movie probably needs parental supervision, but what makes this a western then? Well, there are space pirates who can be considered outlaws, and Professor Hess can be seen as a gunslinger, while Curtis is the stranger going from town to town. Loose interpretation maybe, but it works, eh? Plus, space is a lonely town clearly screams western. While some fans have called it a wild ride on 60s acid, others have called it a comic masterpiece. Despite being weird and having terrible jarring music, the themes of the movie are hard to decipher perhaps, but the fan love shows why it is underrated, despite being quirky and perhaps sexist.
On my way. Come on, big partner.
Brave Star. Brave Star is your classic Western. There's a sheriff and there are outlaws. There's also a rare mineral that's calling people in from far and wide, reminding viewers of the gold rush. And where is it all set? On a planet called New Texas. Not a typical science fiction, this movie is more science fantasy, with a villain being a scary supernatural entity called Stampede, with an army of outlaws under its command. Opposing it are the brave Sheriff Brave Star and his companion, the female Judge McBride, showing a glimpse of an empowered woman. There are also other allies such as a Native American shaman who knows about Stampede, the planet's natives, and more. Yet even with the power of allies by their side, will Brave Star be able to defeat Stampede remains the central question. This movie brings to mind the Doctor Who episode A Town Called Mercy with regards to its setting. Even though it boasts no gunslinger, the movie received critical acclaim for its CGI or computer-generated graphics, and fans too seem to enjoy the plot, even if it glamorized the gold rush. Why is this movie underrated? Well, have you heard of it? Despite the great cinematic experience it offers, the movie is relegated to the archives of great sci-fi, which is honestly such a shame. Just like the treatment of the next movie on our list, it is actually quite surprising. Serenity. We have a Joss Whedon in the house, which is also a sequel to the classic cult-establishing sci-fi western. Yes, we're talking about Firefly with Serenity, set a few weeks after the final episode. For a movie which the Firefly set was rebuilt, Serenity's plot is quite effective in its simplicity. A space crew of petty criminals go about their lives until one psychic passenger carries a dangerous secret. This passenger is River, who was captured by overlords of this space sector, the Alliance. In their captivity, she has been conditioned the same way the Winter Soldier was, and the Alliance is now broadcasting a subliminal message to get their assassin back. With homage to the 1956 Forbidden Planet, it keeps up the Firefly tradition of references. The Alliance created a deadly Nazgul-like Reavers. Fans have seemed to love the movie both as a standalone and as part of the Firefly universe due to its intense storytelling and amazing visuals. The story brings to mind the Doctor Who episodes New Earth and Gridlock in a way, from its futuristic setting to the very human themes that drive it, as well as the character named River and a planet killed by the very people meant to keep him safe. And like we said, outlaws in space being haunted by a machine-driven man is basically outlaws in the Old West being haunted by a gunslinger. Plus, the Firefly universe is clearly a Western universe. Just look at the costumes. Despite all this love and fame, why do we call the movie underrated? Because it is still primarily seen as a Firefly property, despite being a great piece in its own right. The fact that many say the box office returns were lower than expected just adds to how underrated the movie is, despite its massive fan base. Though, do you know what's a space movie we all love? WALL-E. Well, it's not a Western, the director clearly has the bones to make one. Perhaps that's why he did. Yep, our next movie that we're talking about is John Carter. The 2012 American movie by the Pixar director Andrew Stanton is the director's first live-action flick. The plot follows Ned, who is there to examine the eccentric actions of his dead uncle John Carter. Ned discovers that while on the hunt for gold, his uncle has been transported to Mars, also known as Barsoom, where he has had several adventures and even gotten married. Yet he's tricked into returning to Earth and goes on a decade-long quest to find the evidence of Martian manipulation on Earth, as well as a way to return to Barsoom. The weird death seems to confirm he has returned, but has he? Or is there more to the story that Ned has been left in charge of protecting and telling? With themes that seem to be what makes a place home and what makes a man a hero, this movie was loved by fans who called it criminally underrated, especially the character of Deja, who many call worthy of being a Disney princess. Fans clearly are against the box office failure of the movie despite its many flaws, which shows why the movie is underrated. Cowboys and Aliens is the next one on our list. This 2011 work will definitely remind you of the Doctor Who episode A Town Called Mercy. There is a gunslinger without any memory who is rejected by the townspeople, who are weary of strangers until armed marauders appear in the sky and start attacking the residents of the town. Now the stranger is their only hope at salvation, who has gathered with him a group of Apache warriors, the townspeople, and an elusive traveler, Ella. As the amnesiac gunslinger remembers more of who he is beyond the shackles on his his risk, he will recall a secret that could be the town's salvation. But is it enough? A classic Western setting, eh? The title itself ushers you into the genre, showing you that you will get cowboys and gunslingers of the Old West fighting aliens in salons. With the gruff characters that the plot alludes to, we seem to be in for a ride, but we're fans given their money's worth. They found the movie an ambitious money-making plot with flaws, but some could have loved it, if reviews are to be believed. Limited intelligence and bug-eye having aliens took away from the plot. For some Western fans, though, we especially love the classic bad guys who turn good in the movie, as well as Harrison Ford's seemingly obnoxious Ranger character. Seems like this one is a mixed bag. Well, the next one was actually made in 1981 and not just set in the 1800s, so maybe that'll be more of a bullseye. Our next one is Outland. Have you guys seen High Nova? Well, imagine that, but set on Jupiter, and you have a sci-fi western that has ties to Star Wars, and which fans feel has left a mark on the sci-fi genre as a whole, even if it was initially brushed away as a movie trying and failing to ride the coattails of Alien. It doesn't have the gore. Sure, the plot seems to have a character as we follow Marcel O'Neill and his friend Dr. Lazarus. With his wife and son gone back to Earth, the Marshal is alone save for his friend, and this becomes increasingly clear to him as he uncovers a drug ring and tries to stop it for the good of the miners or the sunless moon of Jupiter. Lo and behold, everyone is so terrified, nay petrified of the dealer, that none will raise a finger to help them. So once O'Neill and his bro, the Doc, have dealt with a hitman sent by the drug master, he contacts his superiors, gets warrants for the lot, and returns home to his wife and son. How did they give us a bromance, a love story, and a lone wolf story in one character? Well, I won't know, but maybe the fans do. Well, looks like we were wrong. This one too is the mixed bag, with some fans calling it dull and disastrous and has nothing to offer sci-fi fans, while others say that it is a hidden treasure with its dark and gritty setting as well as Western influences. Well, say what you will, it came from the same minds who were behind Star Wars and Alien, so it can't be that bad, right? Well, let's just move on with the list.
Terminate that one.
Welcome to Blood City is next on our list. Are you a fan of Divergent? What about the Dauntless simulations? Well, Welcome to Blood City had that in 1977, which was one of the first instances of virtual reality in film. It is simply this, to see if potential recruits for the police force had what it takes. They are put in a simulation of the old West town Blood City where they recall nothing about their lives except that they are convicted of murder. They can either pick slavery in Blood City or fight to the death. Obviously, it is all being monitored, though this plot twist was revealed too early. According to fans of this work, some think the film was trying to ride the success of Westworld. We follow Michael Lewis as he tries to fight to the death, while some fans have called the movie unrealistic, since who would test recruits to this level? It is also some solid questions, and boy does it use the Western setting without tapping into the characters like sheriffs, etc. For the main four, and to answer whether it is underrated despite what some may call flawed execution of the plot, well, have you ever heard of the movie? Despite being the first instance of VR on screen, by the way, do you remember Back to the Future? Well, Back to the Future 3, despite being set majorly in the Old West, does not function like a Western. Our next movie is a time travel story that does, even if it makes you think of the grandfather paradox in a way. Time Rider, The Adventure of Lyle Swan. Made in 1982, this movie follows a Mexican dirt rider's journey through time where he realizes that he is his own great-great-grandfather. Our protagonist, Lyle Swan, has trouble controlling his bike due to the futuristic updates he made to it and accidentally ends up stumbling through a time travel accident to the Old West, where he is seduced at gunpoint by local woman Claire, who also beats up the thugs and gang members trying to steal Swan's bike to commit crime. While defeating the gang in a final showdown, after having picked some off with the help of the local sheriff who has a personal vendetta against the gang, the hero is rescued by a helicopter sent by the time travel scientists to bring him to his own time. Before he can leave, Claire snatches a necklace passed down in his family off his neck. This necklace, his great-grandmom had snatched off his great-granddad's neck, and that moment drove home the point Swan was his own great-granddad being part of a circular paradox. Well, what's free will, eh? Fans have called the movie great, even if it's not as innovative as the plot makes it seem, since it follows Western cliches, mostly with time travel being the sci-fi bit, yet some said it sets the path for Back to the Future and was romantic in a weird way. A mixed bag again? And perhaps that's why it's underrated. Well, off to the next one. I'm sure you've heard of it. We're talking about a 1999 classic after all.
Will Smith, you're not the master of disguise that you think you are. You look nasty, just butt ugly.
Wild Wild West. Two special agents have been hired by the president to battle and save the nation from a wheelchair-bound Confederate scientist who plans on taking down America, to return the American states to their original owners. Said scientist also rides a giant spider in the steampunk western work, which fans have had differing opinions about. Some call it a comedy dead zone with amateur acting, while others feel it gets undeserved hate. Moving on, shall we uncover what's next in our list? Next up is Ghosts of Mars. This is a 2001 movie, which means of course it has space. The title screams science fantasy, but let's dig deeper and see if it is the supernatural haunting the Red Planet, or are we looking at alien life forms. If you wish to see Red Rising meet the Old West, this 22nd century story set on a colonized Mars where a group of miners have been overtaken by feral spirits might just be the thing. What happens is that our protagonist Ballard is trying to see what's wrong with a group of miners where deaths are occurring, only to realize some of them have gone feral, and whatever it is that is infecting them moves from one to another if the original host is killed. Later, she learns it is spirits. When she tries to kill them via a nuclear explosion and run away on a train, her attempts fail. Now she and her ally Desolation face a city ravaged by these feral spirits. Well, that is an interesting premise, but seems overly simplistic and at the same time. But that's just our opinion. Shall we see what y'all had to say? Some have called it an extremely underrated movie, while others have declared it that it sucks, especially the wooden dialogue. Another mixed bag where fans either love it and feel it deserves more recognition, or they hate it enough to ask why it is so bad. Oblivion. This 1994 movie is a classic western with the sci-fi elements being the futuristic setting and aliens in place of trouble-making outlaws. A pacifist son of a sheriff is forced to re-examine his views when a gang of aliens, trigger warning, murder his father. These aliens are of course reptilian in nature because they run out of the bug alien CGI. Can we get some diversity in our aliens like on Doctor Who? Give me more potato aliens. Interesting characters include a seer who can see the future called Gunt, the alien Red Eye, and our empath protagonist Zack, who must overcome his hate for violence to rescue the damsel. Do you hear Old West? Because we hear Old West, but let's see what our fans hear when the movie plays. While some have said it is underrated with a great premise despite being a beat-for-beat western, others have left one-star reviews for a movie many have called visually striking. Another mixed bag. Well, maybe the next one isn't. Moving on, we have Moon 02. Does it feel like this 1969 movie about a colonized moon was inspired by the moon landing? Because it does to us fans. Well, what happens here is that our protagonist, Kemp, is backed into a corner and thus has to agree to an illegal space-ferrying mission where he lands an asteroid made of pure ceramic sapphire on the far side of the moon. At the behest of the industrialist Hubbard, we have our noble outlaw and the evil man. Now enters the beautiful lady, Clementine, who is looking for her brother, a man killed by Hubbard because he found a profitable nickel mine that the man covets. Of course, Kemp and Clementine team up and defeat the bad guys, which ends with the asteroid crashing next to the nickel mine, which the lady now owns as next of kin. A happy ending to a space adventure. The plot reminds me of Star Wars, honestly. This makes sense because that too was inspired by westerns, which were in turn inspired by samurai movies. But what do fans feel when they watch Moon 02? While the movie has a few low-star reviews, even they acknowledge that it has decent effects given the time period and budget it was made in. Others have loved this comic action western set on the moon. However, the setting of our next movie is much closer to home. Texas, in fact, which of course is one of the best places for a western. The Aurora Encounter. It is 1897. In this 1986 American weird western film, a local Texan schoolteacher, Alan Pebbles, inherits a newspaper around the same time a UFO enters the town of Aurora, where she lives. This causes there to be several alien encounters, which she is eager to cover until 3 schoolgirls are trapped in a cave, about to be crushed, only for the alien to save them. This leads to them and the teacher summoning the alien to the town, causing horror among those who did not believe the stories about alien encounters. Of course, a horrified onlooker shoots the alien, causing it to die in a crash, and the girls and the teacher attend its funeral. Then, Beth, one of the girls, places a crystal found by her that the alien had left behind on the alien's casket, which causes it to glow and shoot up in the sky. While there are no gunslingers or outlaws, we do have a stranger who visits and helps the town, thus qualifying this movie for being a western, and of course, aliens are science fiction. But do fans buy this? While some say this movie was based on local legends and badly made, this movie is an acquired taste, especially since despite the numerous bad reviews, there are some who call this work a pleasant entry into the science fiction western genre, showing why it is underrated. I guess you'll just have to make your own mind about this piece and allow us to present the next entry on our list. We have Metal Storm: The Destruction of Jared Sin. Filmed in 3D, this 1983 science fiction movie tells the story of a space ranger, Dojin, and his sidekick going to fight a wizard named Jared Sin. This plot will remind you of Dune because it is set on a desert planet where Sin has set up a cult whom he eventually plans to enslave, and these people are devoted enough to agree to gouge out their eyes for him. So we get the science fiction beats here, but where is the western? Well, let's see. This is a western in the same vein as The Mandalorian. A strange man enters the town to help it. The themes of this movie are complex, of course, with ideas such as heroism and identity being touched upon, yet fans did not enjoy it much, even in 3D, calling it largely forgetful and clunky, even if it was kind of fun. So, what do you guys think? Which movie is your favorite? While you think on that, allow us to present to you our marvelous review. A sci-fi western combines two of the most popular genres in cinema, with stunning visuals, common story beats, and lots of space for innovation. While these were some of the underrated gems in the genre, even if many of them have garnered mixed reviews, there are a lot more pieces that the genre has to offer. Maybe we can cover the popular ones next. Let us know in the comments below. As always, if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.